Who is the strongest sorcerer in all of Jujutsu Kaisen? Is it Kenjaku, an immortal man who can jump bodies and steal curse techniques? Is it everyone's favorite blindfolded goofball Satoru Gojo, a man who has mastery over time, space, and infinity itself? Or what about the sorcerer who literally transcended his own humanity to become the king of curses itself, Sukuna? And then there are also people like Yuta, Toji, Itadori. The list really goes on and on and on. So to decide once and for all who truly belongs in the top tier and who gets an F, I'm gonna try to rank and explain every single sorcerer in Jujutsu Kaisen, starting with the saddest guy in the entire story, Yuta Okotsu. And while he may have been scrapped as the series' original protagonist, and yeah, that was actually the plan at some point, his powers are still insane. That's because not only is he actually a distant member of the Gojo clan and a very capable swordsman, but Yuta also has an absolutely broken curse technique, Copy. This ability allows him to steal and use other people's curse techniques. Not only that, he can also control the Queen of Curses, Rika, a special great curse spirit, so powerful that even the likes of Sukuna and Kenjaku respect her as well. But what really makes Yuta so terrifying is that he can infuse any cursed ability he copies into his own domain expansion, which is called Authentic Mutual Love. We can actually see this on full display in chapter 251 when Yuta does this using Angel's technique called Jacob's Ladder. And on top of all that, Yuta also has mastered reversed curse technique, which he can use to both destroy enemies and also heal himself, making him one of the strongest characters in the history of Jujutsu Sorcerers. In other words, a very easy S rank to kick off this list. But now let's drop from the very top down to the very bottom, the F ranks of the series that are barely stronger than your regular average human. And to be fair, there are really only a few here, like those workers from the Tokyo school, Ichiji and Nita, as well as her brother, Ui, Remi, and Rin Amai. And listen, of course they aren't useless or anything, but when compared to anyone in the higher tiers of this list, they are far from anything special and mostly serve as support characters. And honestly, the same kind of goes for many of our D ranks. People like this dude, his granny, or even Junpei technically aren't even Jujutsu sorcerers to begin with. With their actual power level, they would never have a real shot at becoming one of the strong fighters, even if, say, they had someone like Gojo training them. The same goes for basically all of Geto's old crew as well, except maybe Miguel, who does deserve a spot in a different, very special tier, but we'll get to that one later. And it's also the case for every random character that we meet at the beginning of the culling games. Basically, if they didn't make the Sukuna execution team, well, they're all dead weight sitting at D rank for this tier list. We're basically talking about folks like Charles Bernard, Registar, and the rest of these characters here. They're all kind of weak sorcerers from the past, or people who literally had just awakened to cursed energy to begin with, so it's no wonder that they're that far from the actual top. But don't worry, even some of the regular Jujutsu sorcerers can actually land themselves here in the D rank because none of them are really weak. Even though they have mastered their techniques and accomplished some real solid feats during their adventures, like landing black flashes or fighting Kenjaku, well, they just didn't end up doing anything truly productive before being completely useless. Now, of course, talking about absolute powerhouses like Kugisaki, Mai, Haibara, and of course, useless Miwa. All jokes aside, all Jujutsu sorcerers are obviously still pretty incredibly strong. In fact, there are even some students whose skills truly rival their teachers, like say Noritoshi Kamo or Aoi Todo from the Kyoto school, whose powerful abilities, blood manipulation, and boogie woogie are incredibly powerful and difficult to master. We know that because they can even fight against disaster level curses, like when Todo enters the battle against Mahito in chapter 129, or Noritoshi fighting Naoya Zenin in chapter 194. And even if they weren't quite strong enough to finish the job all by themselves, these curses could usually decimate most other professional sorcerers, so the fact alone that they walked away alive, even if they are missing some body parts, is still truly outstanding. which is why both of these two bad boys I think do deserve to be put in the B tier. But there's one Kyoto student I left out, and that is Mekamaru. This poor guy was cursed with a terrible heavenly restriction, and in case you don't know, a heavenly restriction basically means that in exchange for some terrible payment or sacrifice, the user in return gains immense power. For Mekamaru, he was born with an incredibly weak body that couldn't survive on its own, but in exchange, he gained increased amounts of cursed energy and a very powerful curse technique. But that of course changed when Mahito reshaped his soul. Once that happened, he was reborn with an overwhelming cursed energy, he gained a fully functioning body, but also got to keep all the power he got from his heavenly restriction as well. And this allowed him to exchange his own lifespan to accomplish some truly insane feats, like this gigantic mech suit and his laser blast back in chapters 80 to 82. In fact, he almost managed to defeat Mahito and Kenjaku, two of the strongest characters in the entire story, making him the very first A-rank character on our list. But now let's talk about their Tokyo rivals Hakari and Hoshi. Now, Hoshi has one of the most complicated abilities in Jujutsu Kaisen, creating rules that have to be followed or else you cannot hit him. It's kind of a real mindbender, and all of that gets explained in chapter 156 if you're interested to read into all of that detail. It's such a complicated ability that the average sorcerer or curse definitely wouldn't be able to figure it all out that quickly, so Kirara is gonna go into the C tier. However, his partner Hakari is a true beast. Now, to be fair, Hakari also has a quite complicated curse technique, but at least his can be summed up as being a good gambler. Not only that, but he has infinite access to his domain expansion named the Idle Death Gamble. And whenever he uses it, Hakari transforms the entire battlefield into a slot machine world where he can only land jackpots. And then whenever he actually hits a jackpot, music starts playing, his fever hits, and for 4 minutes straight, he becomes technically immortal. Whenever he's in jackpot mode, Hakari's reversed curse technique can work faster than even Gojo or Sukuna's. Oh, and did I mention that he also gets access to infinite cursed energy during that time? In fact, Yuta even says that in this mode, Hakari is stronger than him in chapter 146, so technically that means I'm gonna have to give Hakari our second S-rank spot on this ranking. But now let's talk about Hakari's underclassmen, Panda and Toge. Now, both of these are truly fierce fighters, fighting against Suguro Geto during the night parade of 100 demons, and both capable of taking down semi-grade 1 curses. Not only that, they're also both confident enough to challenge Hanami, the disaster curse, and Hajime Kashimo, the god of lightning. And so with that in mind, I do think that C rank is more than fair for both of them. And since I just mentioned Hajime Kashimo, let's talk about him next. He's a super powerful sorcerer from the past and serves as Hakari's main opponent during the culling games. Kashimo's ability is lightning manipulation, letting him boost his own strength and speed with his curse technique. But when he puts all on the line, he can actually use his final technique, Mythical Beast Amber, a legendary ability that he reveals during his legendary battle with Sukuna in chapter 237. This move truly lets him break his own limits, pushing every single stat he has to its peak. However, once it runs out, it's game over because his flash literally collapses. Nonetheless, I do think that his crazy power guarantees him a spot in the A rank alongside his two counterparts, Angel and Higuruma. And let's talk about Angel here, a character like Sukuna who lives inside the young woman Hana Kurusu. Angel can use the very unique ability Extinguishment to nullify any and all curse techniques in existence. In other words, it's a broken ability that even someone like Sukuna is seriously scared of. Angel can also use her own full power and unleash the maximum output Jacob's Ladder, a massive blast that even had true form Sukuna on the ropes as well, meaning that Angel definitely belongs at least in the A rank. And next up is Hiromi Hiroguma, the most talented modern day sorcerer in existence, and his abilities all rely on his domain, a courtroom that threatens anyone for any crime they have ever committed. This power is able to remove their techniques or even sentence someone to death, a power that he can use incredibly well since he is actually a trained lawyer, which is just very convenient. But let's be real, his true power lies in his insane growth. In a handful of months, he has learned and harnessed reversed curse technique, which is something most pro sorcerers can't even pull off. But on top of that, also casually learned domain amplification after seeing Gojo do it one single time, which is just nuts. The level at which he's able to learn and can improve is just truly unparalleled in the series, and Sukuna even is in awe at his own talents, as he states in chapter 247 that his use of curse technique rivals even his own. And all of that is why he's easily somewhere close to the top spot of the A tier. And since we are talking about the culling games, let's quickly talk about all of the characters that Yuta has defeated. Uro, Druv, and Ryu. All three of them were dominant during the culling game, using their powers to bend the sky, control a fleet of cursed spirits, and blast massive energy blasts from their heads. All of them can unleash massive damage, and Ryu is even stated to have the greatest power output of any culling game player in existence. But unfortunately for all of them, Yuta ran the gauntlet and defeated all of them quite easily, I would say, locking all of them in the B tier. So instead, let's now move on to Sukuna's right hands, Yorozu and Uraume. These two lovely ladies are no joke, mastering the techniques of creation and ice. They're also two fighters capable of pushing Sukuna to give real effort, and can even handle fighters like Hakari without too much effort. So I think it's fairly safe to say none of them is a joke, and easily A-rank contenders on our list right here. But since we've been talking a lot about the past, let's move back to the present and talk about the pro sorcerers still left. Characters like Mei, Nanamine, and the school principals are all immensely powerful grade 1 sorcerers, easily handling special grade curses. For example, we see Mei do just that during Shibuya in chapters 101 and 102. In fact, most of them can even step to the disaster curses, landing them in the top parts of the B tier. And honestly, they may even deserve to be higher on this list. Even the support fighters are strong. Characters like Shoko, Takuma Inu, and Utahime can all still use their curse techniques to assist their teammates, and due to that, I think that they're all at the top levels of the C rank. It's kind of unfortunate that none of them are squaring up against Sukuna, well, I guess except for one, the strongest grade 1 sorcerer. Someone Nanami, Mei, and even Gojo say is the greatest professional sorcerer. That's right, it is the GOAT Kusakabe. Using his simple domain, he alone can stop Sukuna, fighting him when everyone else failed, and defeated him with one mighty slash from his katana, which of course has to earn him a legendary spot in his own very special tier, the Kusakabe tier. Oh, 1 second. Yes? Oh, he didn't win. Alright. Never mind, but I guess he can still have his own tier because I guess he really earned it. And I guess instead, let's move on to our next fighter, Miguel, the only non-Japanese sorcerer that we actually meet in the series. Now, Miguel's technique allows him to ride the rhythm of battle, dodging and attacking with quite impressive speed. He can also buff himself while debuffing his opponents, an ability that lets him last in battles with Gojo and Sukuna. And again, I think this earns Miguel a safe spot in the Kusakabe tier as well, and to round out our joke characters is the legendary comedian Takaba. And his curse technique is quite simple. If Takaba thinks of something that he finds funny, it becomes real. As long as he's having a good time, he's basically invincible, and that is no joke. He literally cannot be damaged. In fact, even Kenjaku couldn't really damage him. Simply put, he is absolutely broken, and he clearly belongs in the Kusakabe tier as well. And now, while all of these three are goofy and comedically strong, there is one group who's truly anti-fun, the super serious and completely edgy Zenin clan. And quite frankly, their upper ranks are basically all noteworthy sorcerers. I mean, Naobito and his entire family are all very impressive professional sorcerers capable of matching characters like post-Shibuya arc Yuji, Chozo, and a disaster level curse like Dagon. These are all characters who could technically level entire buildings and fight on par with the remaining disasters. It's clear that the Zenin clan is no joke and deserves to be in the B rank for all of these. Well, except maybe for Ranta Zenin, who despite being an elite guard member couldn't really hold up against Naobito and his kids, but he's still formidable, so we'll toss him in maybe the lower parts of the C rank. But do you know what's the most insane thing here? Because all of them were defeated by Maki Zenin, a woman with no cursed energy at all. But now, before we go talk about god level Maki, we should talk about her before she unlocked her heavenly restriction, because Maki survived an assault from 2 disaster curses, Dagon and Jogo, and walked away with just some burn wounds and 6 scars. And I think even at that part in the story, even before her transformation, I think C rank is still pretty fitting for her. However, once her sister Mai actually actually sacrifices herself for her, Maki completes her heavenly restriction, becoming a truly demonic fighter on par with the raw power of Toji Zenin, something that the narrator confirmed to us in chapter 198. Both of them are basically living tanks, able to dismantle a disaster level curse by themselves, and Maki even single-handedly destroyed the entire Zenin clan. Really, the only thing that can kill someone like Maki or Toji is Gojo's ultimate technique, Hollow Purple, an attack that literally breaks physics. And because of all of these facts, Maki and Toji are both easily S-rank fighters without any questions asked. And I guess since I just brought him up, we all know that Satoru Gojo belongs right here at the top as well. I mean, he's an obvious S-rank character in this franchise, using his techniques Infinity and the Six Eyes to control space itself. Not to mention that he has access to Reverse Curse technique and the most broken domain expansion in the entire universe, Infinite Void. But of course, we can't just talk about Gojo without talking about his boyfriend, I mean best friend, Suguru Geto as well. Now, Geto is another special grade sorcerer with the unique curse technique, Curse Spirit Manipulation. Basically, this power lets him eat curses, that's right, eat them and save them for later use. And if he wants to go all out, he can combine their power and use his own final technique, Uzumaki, an energy beam of pure destruction. Meaning that with all of these crazy powers, Geto again is easily an S-rank fighter as well. Meaning that there's only one special grade sorcerer from the story, officially at least, left, Yuki Tsukumo, a fighter whose technique can shatter the laws of physics again. That's because Yuki can manipulate the density of her own attacks, giving her fake mass that breaks the laws of reality. As a result of this, every blow that she deals feels like a semi-truck hitting you. However, that's really just the tip of the iceberg, because when she decides to actually throw it all away, she can condense her mass to such a degree that she literally becomes a black hole, something we see happen in chapter 208, and it's really no wonder that she's a special grade sorcerer. She can literally destroy the universe if she really wanted to. And if that's not the power of an S-tier character, then I don't know what is. But next, let's talk about her fighting partner, Yuji's brother, Chozo. He's a master of blood manipulation and goes toe-to-toe with Kinjaku, Uraume, and even Sukuna. Now, does he ever win? Not really, but he also technically, I guess, doesn't lose. Somehow this dude just keeps getting up no matter how much damage he takes. He can also use Reverse Curse technique, and with all of these powers, Chozo, I think, very comfortably steals a spot in the A rank. Meaning that we're now getting to three of the most important characters, Megumi, Yuji, and Sukuna. From episode 1, they've clearly been set up to be our most important characters, so let's not waste any more time, starting with the leader of the, I guess now not anymore existing Zenin clan, thanks Maki, Fushiguro Megumi. Now, to say that Megumi and his 10 Shadows technique are truly terrifying is probably an understatement, especially when you stack on his domain expansion, Chimera Shadow Garden. Unleashing his Shikigami allows him to mix up his opponents with deception, trickery, and when that doesn't work, just raw brute power. Whether it's the lightning demon bird Nue or Mech's elephant, Megumi has an ability for basically every occasion and situation. And if none of these should work, you know what time it is. Megumi strikes a pose and suddenly it's time for...
Oh, you think I'm losing? No, bitch, we losing. Big Raga, the op stopper. Free Gojo nigga. Oh, bitches, Big Maho. What the fuck?
That's right, it's Mahoraga, the divine general capable of destroying anyone with its power of adaptation. Because yeah, this guy can adapt to any person's fighting style and technique and crush them, and can only be defeated if you can one-hit KO him. Meaning it does make a lot of sense that the only two characters to ever defeat it have been Gojo and Sukuna. Now, if we were ranking Mahoraga, he would be an S rank, but since it literally kills Megumi, I can't really let it count towards his own ranking. So unfortunately, that means he's actually surprisingly low on our list at the top of the B tier. And now, since I've been avoiding him, let's talk about the main character of the show. Because we kind of need to go over him before we can properly talk about Sukuna, it is now time for Itadori Yuji to take the stage as well. And to start, Yuji just has insane raw power that I don't think anyone really understands. I mean, He can throw cars, break down walls, and level a battlefield with his scrappy attitude and his bare fists. It really makes sense that he was the character chosen by the Sparks of Black, a fancy title that just means that Yuji is the master of the Black Flash technique, an ability that amplifies the attack power of a character significantly. It's an attack that even people like Gojo or Sukuna can't properly control, but Yuji? Well, this dude can use them on command, it basically seems, at least according to Maito in his rematch with Yuji. Not to mention that we learned during Yuji's fight with Sukuna that he can also separate someone's spirit from their body. That's because he doesn't just throw hands on the physical plane, no. He can do it on a spiritual level as well, hitting the soul itself. He's also got a wonderful case of main character syndrome, so as of now, I do think putting him in the A rank is fair, but by the end of the series, I think he just has to absolutely be in the S rank. We can only hope. And finally now, let's talk about the one you've all been waiting for, the king of curses and of the series so far, Ryomen Sukuna. And for him, we actually have to go in episode, so let's start with his Shibuya form, also known as 15-finger Sukuna. And already right here, he is a clear A rank. He's able to use his curse techniques, cleave and dismantle, as well as his domain expansion, Malevolent Shrine. These abilities helped him defeat the S rank Divine General Mahoraga, not to mention a disaster curse like Jogo couldn't even lay a single finger on him. Meaning even in that basic form, he's still on a whole different level. And that's only at 75% of his actual strength, because when he gets 4 more fingers and takes over the body of Fushiguro Megumi, he jumps up to the S rank easily. Because on top of all his other powers, he now gains access to the 10 Shadows technique. Yeah, that's right. At 19 fingers, he can fully just control Mahoraga and fuse the remaining shadows into the hybrid merged beast Agito, a spirit on par with Mahoraga as well. He even developed the legendary world-cutting dismantle, a version of his slice that cuts through reality and the space beyond it. Turns out this even lets him cut through Gojo's unbreakable infinity as well. But above those two forms of Sukuna is his final fully reawakened form. True form Sukuna has 4 arms, 2 mouths, and unwavering power. We know that because he takes down pretty much every sorcerer in the story in just a couple of moves. Really only ever feeling pressure from the combined onslaught from awakened Maki, Yuta, Yuji, and anyone else able to land a few hits on him. Oh, and the only way of ever defeating him, separating his soul from his host body, Megumi, which is awfully convenient since, as we just talked about, Itadori Yuji can do literally just that. Regardless though, it is clear that the King of Curses is the strongest threat and our final S-rank fighter, but if you really want to dive into the deepest and darkest parts of Jujutsu Kaisen with the craziest and wildest theories and facts that even the most hardcore fans don't know, like for example how Kenjaku's powers work, who we didn't even properly talk about here, you can check out my 1 hour plus Jujutsu Kaisen iceberg right here. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to subscribe. It does really help the channel, even if it's annoying, but we're still not even at 10,000 subscribers. And otherwise, I do hope to see you in the next video.